everybody. All right, welcome, my man. How you doing?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me.
No, you haven't been in the news much lately, so...
I never thought that I'd be on the cover of a Saudi Arabian newspaper, but that's how far it's stretched. People, on Twitter, people are from all over the world are sending me these articles about this whole Kickstarter thing, and it's just bizarre how far the conversation has stretched. It's just everywhere.
So it's kind of like the best of times, because I saw you're like... with 3 days out, like $2.7 million, which you never saw coming like that quick. And then the worst of times, because at the same time, you're getting all this heat from people who don't think you should have done Kickstarter at all.
Well, it isn't. It's not the worst of times because I can't complain. I went out there to try and raise money for a project of my own, and within 36 hours, we raised $2 million. We're still going. We have 48 more hours, and we're at 2.7. So I can't complain. I have the most amazing fans ever, and they rallied around this idea, and we're into it. The idea that people that don't like me to begin with took this as a rallying cry to be like, oh my God, we can shit on Zach Braff for how long? How many more days? That's something I was not prepared for. I actually thought it was going to come from the industry. I thought people were going to be like, how dare he go around the traditional ways of doing this? Who does he think he is? And actually, none of that happened. In fact, the people were really excited about it. The anger and vitriol seem to be coming from fellow writers and bloggers and people like that.
Well, people in the industry, if they had a project they really wanted, they would take the money from coke dealers and arms dealers. They wouldn't give a shit. And a lot of movies that we see, they come from shady financing or whatever, and we normally go great, great, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
The fact that it's other writers and filmmakers, where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. It's curious. Actually, you can Google my name in Psychology Today, and they've already written an article about it. I swear to God, it's not joking. There was an article in Forbes being like, a Forbes writer being like, please help me make sense of this. And I just did Howard Stern for the first time, and he's like, you gotta help me because I really don't understand the controversy. And so I'm now in the position where I'm explaining to other people why people are mad about this.
Right.
Which is a bizarre situation. And on Twitter, 99% of the time that I have to block someone because they're just being a douche, and I go to their name to block them, the word writer is in their description. So I don't know. I guess there's a feeling amongst some writers who clearly don't like me to begin with, thinking that that I shouldn't be, because I'm known and because I'm established, I shouldn't be crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing should only be for people who have yet to be discovered. That is their theory, the hypothesis I believe that they have.
And to you, that doesn't make sense? I mean, to you?
Well, I think there's room for everyone in crowdsourcing. One of the first things I had to articulate is that one of the big complaints was, how dare you not give these people a piece of the back end if you have a giant success? And I went, you're preaching to the choir. That's genius. It's not legal. I don't want to go to jail.
Right.
You can't do that yet. One day there's talk that might happen, that you could theoretically buy a stock in a movie going, all right, I like Zach, I like Kate Hudson, I like whoever. They're going to, this story sounds cool. I'll buy $20 worth of stock in that. It'll be fun to watch what happens with it. And then if it's a huge hit, you'll reap rewards. That's not legal. So what is legal in the meantime is giving people all sorts of incentives and rewards, saying everything from, I'll email you a copy of the script. We're going to make a cool t-shirt. Come visit the set. Come be an extra. Come have a line. Whatever it is, create all these fun incentives for my fan base, and they can get involved. The day we launched this, Kickstarter had their biggest traffic day they've ever had. Now, I'm a fan of Kickstarter. I'm on there. I've got so many things in my house from Kickstarter. And those of you who don't know, who are listening, it's a site that funds creative projects, whether they be movies, music, books, innovation ideas, design ideas. And so it's quite addicting, and you get on there and you back and you support these projects. So, my answer to that criticism that I'm somehow hurting those group of people is that we know I have all the data because I have all the analytics, and so I've been fighting these people, being like, "You're wrong." I registered over 20,000 people at this website. We have the data that shows over $400,000 from my project and Kristen Bell's project has gone on to go to other projects so far. So I think there's room for everyone to be involved in this, not to mention the fact that it caused a stir. I've given global exposure to this website and the idea of crowdfunding to the earth.
So a big part of this just happens to be that some of these people who view themselves as independent have a problem with you because they don't see you as being independent. They see you as being part of the Hollywood machine.
They see me. I'm sorry, Bret Michaels. It appears to be going in a phone booth. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm just sorry.
That's what happens here.
Just another day at Sirius.
Yeah, it is.
I'm looking past your shoulder to Bret Michaels getting in a photo booth, and there were no hookers or whores around him. So.
Yet. Well, we just started a new show called Bret Michaels in a photo booth, and it's really niche.
I didn't mean to upstage my interview, but
no, it happens here all the time.
Yeah, well,
it really
people
does.
Walk by and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you ask me before Michaels got in the photo booth?
Well, I was asking you when Poison first came out, did you think... I was saying that I think that some of this beef comes... Some people view themselves as independent and view you as part of the Hollywood machine because you've made a movie and you've acted in films and you've had a hit series.
I think if you are trying to make a piece of art film and people don't want to pay for it unless you do certain things, and the corporations aren't interested in it, and a financier who's essentially a banker will back it if you cast who he wants to cast, give him final cut, shoot it in a place where the movie doesn't take place, and make all these changes, then I don't see how I'm not still going out there independently on my own. Mm-hmm. The difference in my case is that I can also kick in some of my own dough, which I'm doing. Yeah. I said to people very openly, this is going to come from, this is about a $6 million movie. So there'll be three sources of income. There'll be the money we raise on Kickstarter. There'll be my own investment. And I can also pre-sell, hopefully, some foreign sales to bring us to a total of around $5 or $6 million. That's still making a movie completely independently without any corporate involvement or anyone. I'm the boss. I'm in charge of the whole thing now, thanks to my fans.
And you're not hearing this from your fans. No one,
none of
no one like pledged money towards this and then said, "What the hell am I doing?"
The most frustrating thing. Well, also you can back out. You can even as here's the funny thing. This will piss off the critics even more. All of the critics drove traffic to the website and increased our. I can see on my. You have like this what's called a dashboard. You see where everyone came from. So you'd have some blogger write something just hateful about me and just mean, and then I'd see how much money that blogger indirectly brought in by doing it. And at first I wasn't engaging because I was like, I just need to shut up because these people are driving so much traffic to the site. So no, you can back out. We don't take the money until the thing closes in now 48 hours or so. And no, this is all from people that don't like me and decided that this was a good chance to tell the world why.
Have you felt that kind of heat before in your career, or did it all just happen during this Kickstarter?
Yeah, I think anytime now with social media and everyone having a voice and the anonymity of comments boards and people just having this new courage at the key. Someone here just called it keyboard courageous or something like that. This new way of speaking when there's anonymity involved. That's a new thing to be in the public eye and have that flying at you.
Sure.
And I'm very engaged with my fans both on Twitter and Facebook, so I see a lot of it, and I have to block people that are taking the time to say that I should be burned at the stake. But that comes with being in the public eye, and it comes with the good. If you're going to have this amazing fan base, you can't ignore there's going to be people that don't like you. I've just never been a person to sit there at a keyboard and go into a paragraph this long about why I hate someone. That's just not me. But that's someone. There are people out there. There's a group that did a fundraiser on Indiegogo, which is a Kickstarter's competitor, but they're more open to a more variety of things, to try and crowdfund to raise money. These are filmmakers to raise money to build a Hollywood report to buy a Hollywood Reporter ad, which is $10,000, to stop me from doing what I'm doing. Now, I wanted to hit my head against the wall. These are filmmakers who are mad at me, who are crowdsourcing 10 grand. They could go off with 10 grand and make a really awesome short like I used to do when I had no money and before crowdsourcing, and highlight their skills and start from the ground up like I did. And instead they're putting all their anger and energy into literally trying to raise money to buy a Hollywood Reporter ad to say that I should be stopped from crowdsourcing. I mean, that's the kind of shit that I've encountered in the last month.
And none of that you expected. I mean, you expected some, but never this kind of.
No, I never expected that. I knew there'd be some sassy bloggers that would take a dig at me. That always happens, but I didn't know that there'd be. People that are, that would take so much time in shitting on this. But I have to ignore it because at the same time that's happened, first of all, it's almost over, and this is the last, and 40,000 people are into this, and I have to serve them. They're the people that I'm doing this for, and so someone said I got to focus on the donut, not the hole.
Right.
And I love donuts.
Well, how is this different from when you did Garden State? You had to go out and make this small film and take it around, and it grew and it became successful. So how's the experience different? No one even knew?
No one knew, but everyone passed on Garden State.
Right.
I mean, everybody passed on Garden State, and it wouldn't have been made had this one financier who, it was a mortgage banker. He just made a lot of money and wanted to dip his toe in the financing waters, and he took a risk on me. We had a $6 million budget for that movie, too, and he said, "Can you make it for $2.5 million? If you can, I'll write a check right now." And we were like, "Give us a minute."
Right.
And we cut a lot of stuff, and we made it work. This movie's a little more ambitious. It's about a family, and it's about and it takes place in Los Angeles, and there's a fantasy element, and there's greater costs. So the cheapest we could figure out how to make it was in the 5 to 6 range in LA.
And 9 years has passed between this film and Garden State, so obviously it's going to be more pricey anyway.
Of course. And also, I'm in all the union. I'm in every union and guild you can be in, and I believe in that. So I want to do that. I have to make the film within the guild and union rules. Shooting in LA has a premium because there's all these tax incentives if you go to Vancouver or other places. I want to make the movie in Los Angeles. I have a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old, and there's hour restrictions with how long the kids can work, and there's this fantasy element. So yeah, we got the budget as trimmed down as we could, but it ended up in the 5 range.
I think what most of us who aren't in the business don't understand is how do you make Garden State, which becomes this hit, and then 9 years go by, and no one's saying we want you to do a romantic comedy for our
I turned down. There's plenty of that stuff. I don't want to do crap romantic comedies, though. I don't have any interest in that. I could have directed 10 shit romantic comedies from a studio. I don't like them.
Right. So you could have joined the studio system. You could have taken a shot.
I should clarify. There were films that within a studio I tried to make, but they were non-traditional in their structure, and they would fall apart. I would lose a star. Excuse me. A star would fall out of the movie. Someone who was the champion of the movie would get fired, and all of a sudden it falls apart. But this was the first time I really went back to fully owning the script. For people that don't know, owning the content is key. If you don't own the property, you can just get jerked around for years, and then it can get stuck somewhere, and it's horrible. So the ideal situation is to own the property 100% yourself. My fan base was saying, when are you going to make another movie? When are you going to make a movie? Well, keep in mind, I was still on a TV show for 9 years. Mm-hmm. So the only times I could do it would be during the hiatus breaks, and making a movie is hard enough, period. Then add in the juggling of trying to do it in a hiatus window with a star who's going to bring you your money, and their schedule's constantly in flux, and I just could never stick the landing and make it happen again. So Scrubs ended, and I first thing I did was write a play, and then I did that here in New York and in London. And now I'm finally getting back in the director's chair. But when I went out again with a new movie that's sort of non-conventional and not going to follow this three act structure of every other movie, and it has my own little flair on it. I was finding the same limitations and restrictions that I found even worse. The deal I was about to sign was worse than the deal that I would have signed that I signed for Garden State.
And your feeling is they would have come in and changed things as soon as they saw you were doing something.
The deal was this: choose from these actors who have enough foreign box office sales. Movies these days, because DVD is pretty much dead, the financiers all hedge their bets by choosing actors whose films have made enough money overseas that they know odds are with this actor and this actor, your overseas money will be around here if it works. So they hedge their bet that way, and they can pre-sell the foreign. Well, I don't have any foreign sales. I was on a TV show that doesn't count. Other than I was Chicken Little, that doesn't count. Yeah. Oz, I guess, counts maybe a little bit. I was a monkey. I don't know, but I don't have. The movies I've done are these little indies. They don't have giant foreign box office. So that means nothing. So I think that's something I had to explain to a lot of people. I can't go out there and get financing with great ease because I just sort of do my own thing. I create my own content. The things that have worked in my career I've done on my own. And
you have felt like it would have changed things if you had Jean-Claude Van Damme to the film, suddenly like, oh, he's known overseas, but he's just fucked up my movie. And that's how it felt most of the time that you're getting these. Yeah, of course. And you're going, I have some friends that are actors, and I go, I really, they're famous, and like, they'll do me a favor and be in the movie, and the people in one of the roles, and they'd be like, no, we need someone more famous. And I'd be like, well, it's a relatively small part. It's essentially a favor. I don't know who we're going to get. And so they give you the list, and it's like Julia Roberts, like, she'd be great. Yeah. Or what's her name from Katniss, from Jennifer Lawrence. They give you a list of like the hottest stars in the world, and you're like, you guys, these people aren't going to, A, they're not going to do my little movie. B, they're booked for years. C, they're going to take 2 months to decide if they want to do it, and I have to make it this August. And so I was just tired of banging my head against the wall, and just around the time when I was banging my head against the wall, this Veronica Mars thing broke on Kickstarter, and I had to take a moment and go, wait a minute, what if we just took a step outside the box and rethought this entire paradigm? What if I went to the fans and said, look, I'm going to kick in my own money, but I can't afford a $6 million movie on my own. I can sell a little foreign, but what if you guys got involved too? And you can get involved for $1, or you can get involved for $10,000, and I'll create cool incentives, but we'll do it together. Mm-hmm. And I knew that over the course of a month, if I could get 20 or 30,000 people across the globe to get involved, it could work. And 2 days out from it being over, we're at over 40,000 people. And you see what so many great filmmakers have to go through. I mean, Woody Allen goes foreign himself. Exactly. He doesn't make New York movies anymore. And if someone came to me and said, hey, Woody Allen's trying to raise movies to, do something like Manhattan again, I think I might jump at it. I would jump at it in a second. By the way, I'm the one who explained crowdfunding to Woody Allen. It was really funny. Is that right? Because did you have to explain a computer first, or no, how far does it go? He's one of my heroes, yeah. And I met him because we're talking about doing something together, and it was the day that this kind of broke, like the insane news of this, and everyone else in the room was like, oh my God, congratulations, it's insane, who can't believe it worked, no one thought it would work, and he clearly didn't know what anyone was talking about. So I started to explain to him, and I thought, I'm a little nervous around him. I'm like, let me keep this succinct, like, come on, like, give the most succinct Cliff Notes version of this. But he's riveted, and we sat there and talked for about 10 minutes with him asking all these really intelligent questions and having this discourse, and it was awesome. And of course, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just explained crowdfunding to Woody Allen. And a couple of days ago, his assistant emailed me about something, and I said to her, P.S., I'll always remember that I'm the one that explained crowdfunding to Woody Allen. And she wrote back, P.S., you explained it too well. He won't stop talking about it. Sure. But, Woody has been trying to raise, he goes to the raising money thing for, 40 years. I would if Woody doesn't make movies in here anymore because he gets his funding from foreign sources. Yeah. If someone said to me, hey, for X amount of dollars, you can participate in Woody making movies in Manhattan again, I'd be there in a second. And I think that there's room for everyone
in this new paradigm. I guarantee you, if you're listening to this and you're not a fan of mine, you don't shut off the conversation, because that's silly. Insert your favorite artist in my seat and think, if that person had a project that they couldn't get financing for, they were going to put in some of their own money, but couldn't fund the whole thing themselves, and offered you incentives, whether it be a copy of it or a set visit or a video of behind the scenes. I guarantee you there's someone out there who you would be interested in doing that with.
And a big part of this, you're going to kind of take these people along on the process,
yes.
right? You're going to have a lot of videos for them?
I'm creating sort of an online magazine for anyone who's in for $10 and up. And so not only do you get a copy of the script emailed to you, but you get all this content of a year and a half's worth of behind-the-scenes content of video of interviewing people involved in the movie. I have this amazing cast now: Manny Patinkin, Kate Hudson, Josh Gad, Anna Kendrick, Jim Parsons. This sort of dream team of actors that were my first choices for all the roles. And so it'll involve them, it'll involve the crew, and, for people interested in the behind the scenes of the making of a movie, that's my pitch. My pitch is, there's other things you can get if you want to visit the set or if you want a t-shirt or whatever. But at the most basic level, it's like, join this team, come on board, we're going to do this really cool project together, and then you'll have been a part of the movie. When you're seeing previs art of me going, oh, which location should I choose? And then you see the movie, you go, oh, he chose that second location. That's the one I like, but you're a part of it. And I think now, with there being so many things grabbing our attention for art, film attendance down, people barely watching network TV anymore, it's a new way to get people involved in the experience. They're involved the whole time, and they have an investment in it, and I think that's really cool. I would love, for the people that I look up to as filmmakers, I would love it. If Fincher did something like this, Woody Allen, people who I admire, I'd be in and out in a second.
Yeah, and most of our great filmmakers have had some period in their career. I mean, Marty Scorsese couldn't make films for a while in the 80s that he couldn't get backing for. Everybody goes through it.
Every filmmaker you love, maybe not Spielberg, but every filmmaker you can think of has a movie they would love to make but can't get funding for.
Mm. And so you feel like a lot of people will be looking towards this in the future, particularly that you now that you're explaining that people get a VIP treatment in terms of seeing how the film is being made.
I think that it's a new way to engage the fans, and it's win-win for everyone. Think of what you spend $10 on in a given week. So if you're a fan of mine and you also like kind of knowing about films, and we just did our first interview, for example, for the site, and it's with a concept artist. This is a guy who works for Lucas, he works for ILM, some of the biggest people in the business. He does initial concept art to create the looks of things. He's a friend of mine, and he's doing me a favor and doing, because we have some fantasies in my film, and he's doing some concept art. So not only do we have the concept art, which is amazing, and it's on the Kickstarter page, but I sat with him and I said, look, I'm a fan of what you do. I'm going to interview you. Let's do a cool little 3-minute interview and talk about your process. He's sitting at his computer. He paints it all in Photoshop, which is fascinating. And he does a quick little tutorial interview with this guy, a very successful concept artist, about his process. And I just feel, if you're into movies and you're into behind the scenes content, this is awesome. And it's quick. It's, people don't have attention span on the web from something more than 2 minutes. So it's quick, it's interesting, it's relevant, and that's the kind of content we're going to create.
Well, we used to get these kind of extras in DVDs, but now you're doing it before the film comes out.
Why not engage the audience before? That's long after. You're going to be a part of the process, and you're going to say some things we might even ask people to vote on. Like, hey, I'm deciding, the family builds this elaborate fort treehouse in the movie. Like, maybe we're deciding between which looks. Which look do you guys like better? I can't quite decide. They become part of the process. I can't decide which is the right costume for the kid for that scene. What do you guys think? And I just think it's a new paradigm for engaging the audience early and having them be a part of it rather than after the fact.
Do you worry that it takes some of the magic out of showing up for the film?
You do have to be careful about spoilers. I think what we'll do at some points is say to some people, hey, this particular video has lots of spoilers in it, because I think there'll be people who won't want that. So, yeah. And also, we're going to be careful about not giving away too much of it I'm going to pick and choose what I show because I don't want to give away anything that's going to ruin. I mean, ultimately, they've paid for this movie. I want them to have the best experience of all. Now, we all know if you go to a movie knowing the end, the movie's not going to be as fun for you. So those people who have gotten the script will get the script the day the movie comes out. But I will say to them, like, look, I highly recommend reading it after you see the movie. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you'll enjoy it more after because it's like it's like knowing how the magic trick's done before the magic.
Right.
So, it'll be up to the person to choose whether they want to do that or not. It's they're their own person. But I would say, I plead with you, read it when you get home because that way you'll have you'll enjoy the magic trick first and then you can figure out how it's done,
And now you're also going to be making this not just with your fans, but with your detractors. It kind of becomes under a microscope. And I was even thinking this week, as different people, Manny Patinkin signs with you, suddenly, it's big news. Kate signs on, it's big news. You don't normally get that with an independent film, as each person decides.
No, and every detractor, again, what happens is they write a blog and it links to the site. Mm-hmm. So their fans will then go, I agree with Bob.
Right.
Or they'll go, I disagree with Bob, but either way, it's sending all the traffic to the site. And there's a 3-minute video I made that's my pitch. And anyone who watches the video will then say, okay, I agree with this or I don't agree with this. People got so upset about it. I'm like, well, move on. If you don't like me and you're not into this pitch, why are you still in the conversation? It's a choose your own adventure. Join us or don't. The detractors are not people that were going to go see my movie anyway. They're not people that like me, and there's no one who's a fan of mine who was like, this is horrible.
Right. And Kate Hudson is going to be playing
my wife.
Your wife.
Yeah.
But fuck you. That's a little too far.
Yeah.
That's a little too far.
From Natalie Portman to Kate Hudson, I've done very well.
Yeah. If only everyone could cast their chick, that would be the greatest thing ever.
Isn't it great? Yeah.
But
how about Natalie Portman?
Yeah.
She'll do.
Yeah.
She'll do fine as the girl who brings me out of my depression.
And Kate was a first pick for you.
Kate's my friend. I'm friendly with Kate, which I wanted to. We're shooting in August, and it's always an added leg up. People always love the relationship between Donald Faison and I on Scrubs, and it's one of the things that people love the most. Well, we were genuinely best friends in real life, so part of that was it came from that showed on screen, and people didn't really know how to articulate it really well. But I can tell you, as being there, it's being so comfortable with someone that you can just riff and be so funny. Judd Apatow, those are that's his troupe. They're all buddies. They all hang out. They all have the same sense of humor. It's one of the reasons it works so well. So Kate and I are friends, and so. Not only did I fall in love with her in Almost Famous and think she's wonderful and think that she's perfect for the character, but there's an added benefit in already being buddies with the person that's going to be your movie wife, and you can kind of jump in and be comfortable with each other already, and not have to be like that first day, like Juliana Margulies was once on Scrubs, and it was literally like we had a makeout scene, and of course it was the first thing we shot. It literally was like, hi, nice to meet you. 30 seconds later, we're tongue kissing, and it's just bizarre. It's a weird, awkward thing. So I'd rather be. It's not only is Kate perfect for the role because I need someone who's funny and got a good sense of humor and pretty and charming and all those things, but also it was an added benefit that we were already buddies. And also I needed someone who would do this for no money. I mean, I should say you needed people that would do it for scale, and I don't know a lot of fancy movie stars who would rally around the cause for nothing.
And did you know her before Almost Famous, or you saw her?
I just had a crush on her then.
Yeah,
and then
like the rest of the
rest of Earth, and we became friends years later. So
this is how you're getting. Manny, did you already know?
Mandy, I didn't know. I'm a fan. Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, Princess Bride was my favorite movie. Now Homeland is my favorite TV show. So we needed someone to play my father, who was a great actor and felt believably Jewish because I'm believably Jewish, and so he was who we went out to first. And
it's always really good to have someone really intimidating around too, because he's one of those guys.
The character is that he's a father. Part of the film is the father-son relationship, and they're a little bit estranged, and they're working on it. And it's good to have someone who's genuinely a little bit scary, like Mandy Patinkin.
He is scary, isn't he?
He's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
And then Josh Gad is playing my brother, and
hysterical.
I saw Book of Mormon, and I said, this is easily one of the funniest people I've ever seen in my life. And he signed on to be my brother. And Anna Kendrick, I just think is about the most charming thing on screens these days. And it's a small part. She's doing me a favor, playing a love interest for Gad. And Jim Parsons is a friend. I like to think I helped break Jim Parsons because he had a small part in Garden State, and so all these people are sort of rallying around the cause. People are really into it. The artists are really into it. I got a call from Chris. I got an email from Chris Cornell, who is a hero of mine. Out of the blue, Chris Cornell got my email address from somebody, and he said, "I'd love to write a song for this. I'm just a big fan, and I love the way you're doing this, and this is so cool." And so artists are super into it. And I'm letting that outweigh the voice of angry bloggers.
Well, you had the soundtrack was a big part of Garden State for you as well, and you stay in touch with your fans over music. You guys, that's
another part of this is there'll be a lot of discourse on music because we're gonna the soundtrack to Garden State went platinum and won a Grammy bizarrely because it was a mixtape. I won a Grammy for a mixtape. But people obviously responded to it, so we're going to stick with that tone and make another one, and hopefully have perhaps have an original Chris Cornell song on it as well. But we're going to engage the fans also in that way. So not only in addition to the soundtrack, there's all these other, we can keep suggesting music and maybe even have a Spotify account. And so the conversation within the club, if you will, the Kickstarter club, is not just about the movie, but it's like, hey, here's some bands we bet you'll like this week. Here's who I'm listening to. Here's, I'll have people helping me curate it, but here's some cool music to listen to. And so it becomes it becomes a club where the content's being curated for like-minded people who have similar interests.
I just think, though, most people who've directed films have come in and talked to me about, it being so overwhelming because you've got to stay on the schedule. And here, your stuff has already started. It's almost like you're directing this online campaign as well. Well,
that's almost over. And then it'll be just about catering to those 40 to 50,000 people. It won't.
Is that all? You keeping them happy?
No, but I mean, as opposed to talking to Earth about it and having to defend it and having to have the debate across the Earth, I'm 2 days away from done engaging. Like I've made my point. You've heard my debate points. You can Google the videos. You can listen to me on Howard or this show. I've stated my case, and you're into it or you're not. Then it becomes like, okay, cool. We have this rad club of 40 to 50,000 people, and then my only concern is them and making a killer movie for them and for my other fans. And then I just switch fully into that gear.
But you got to be knowing that you're probably going to get some rougher criticism than most filmmakers who come out, because it's almost anybody who's going to give you a negative review is going to pick up a certain amount of heat online, so that you're going to be dealing with some people who are going to just have to screw with you.
Listen, the second an artist starts making something for critics, I think you've failed. Everyone loves good reviews. It feels great to get a good review. I've gotten reviews that said I was the greatest. I've gotten reviews that said I should quit. John Simon, I was once in a play with a small part, and John Simon was the New York theater critic, the theater critic for New York Magazine, and he chose, I probably had 5 lines in the play. He chose me to just destroy. And years later, my play came out at Second Stage, my first play that I've written, and, some critics loved it, some critics hated it. John Simon was our most glorifying, amazing review. I can't worry about that. I have to make what I think is good, and hopefully people like it. My fans show up either way. They really do. When I did the same play in London, the London critics, some were nice, but some were not nice. They did not like the guy from Scrubs coming over to the West End and doing a play. Sure. It didn't matter. We sold out the play for 4 months. It didn't matter. Scrubs, some seasons got great reviews, others didn't. It didn't matter. That core group of fans loved the show. Garden State, same thing. So I just kind of keep doing what's worked for me was doing what I thought was good, and people love it or hate it. But that's all I want to do is make what I think is good.
But the easy way would be to go back and do another TV show and kind of play to that where people go, oh, he belongs there. But you never follow that. You really,
you sign a 7 to 8 year contract, and I got out of one, and it was awesome. And I felt like there's so much I want to do. I want to make movies. I want to go do plays in London. I want to have a life a little bit and explore other things. I would totally go back to TV maybe one day, but right away it's not something I want to do just because I don't want to sign up. I'll sign on the dotted line.
But I think what's interesting is that you do these things knowing that you're going to take such a knock from some of these people, that whatever you do you're going to take a certain knock because they're going to see you as Scrubs guy.
I have to say, I didn't imagine. I think the Earth was due to have this conversation about crowdfunding. I think it's a new topic for a lot of people, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about aspects of it. I think film financing is not something I've learned that most people really fully understand, because I have to see the misinformation out there. So I didn't really understand that there'd be this, that I would sort of become the poster boy for the conversation. But the conversation's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So good luck to the next person who wants to give it a whirl. I wish them well.
And I do agree with you. I think that most people would look at Sean Penn and think he gets to do whatever he wants to do. They don't know that he's got to fight for every project that he cares about.
And here's something that most people don't know. A lot of studios would rather have a bigger box office star than Sean Penn.
Right.
They would go, oh my God, we'd so much rather you cast The Rock. You're laughing. It's not a joke. The Rock has, and I'm not dissing The Rock, he's a super nice guy, and he has a giant audience, and more power to him. But he's a much more giant international box office star than Sean Penn. So you will have a conversation, be like, because I've had this conversation. Sean Penn's great, but have you considered X, Y, Z? And you're like, are you fucking kidding me? This is one of the greatest actors alive. He's awesome. We love him. But look at these numbers in Stad. You're right. The Rock is huge in Stad.
The Rock as Harvey Milk probably would have been one of the great films.
God,
of all time.
Amazing.
Yeah, I guarantee this. He wouldn't have got killed. He would have.
He would have fought the shooter.
He would have fought his way out of there and became the first gay president.
Yeah.
But when we get into the knocks and stuff, you've been doing this since you were a kid. You've been around acting and writing.
Everything I've accomplished in my life that I'm proud of was preceded by someone telling me that's not going to work. Everybody passed on Garden State. I couldn't get arrested as an actor from other than a couple little things from 13 when I started until I got Scrubs. Plenty of people were saying, when are you going to give up? My play, people were like, you're going to write a play? No one's going to produce a play. We had a phenomenal success. And people going, that's not going to work. It worked for Veronica Mars because it was a known title. You're crazy. No, it's not going to work. It worked in 36 hours. So I'm sort of used to it. Also, I go to schools and I try and inspire kids to be fearless, go after their dreams, don't take no for an answer. It would be pretty disingenuous of me to not be trying to live that in my own life. When I go out and tell a bunch of college kids, like, screw the haters, you got to follow your dream, follow your art, make what you believe in. And then if I was hiding in the fetal position from mean bloggers under my bed, that'd be such a pussy. I have to go be that myself.
What age did you say, this is what I'm going to definitely do? Were you a kid? Were you 12?
8.
8 years old.
8. I saw my dad in community theater, and I was like, I want in.
And how quick before you got up?
He sent me eventually to theater camp. There's a theater camp in upstate New York called Stage Door Manor that's kind of legendary for young kid actors. And I went there and got discovered by an agent, and I started just going on auditions, and I got a couple of things here and there. But nothing really substantial. And then I decided I'd go to film school when I was 18, and I went to Northwestern and really studied filmmaking. And then I got out of school, and I was PAing on music videos and working, driving trucks around Manhattan and doing grunt work, and then working as a waiter. And I moved to LA and Little by little, nothing happened, and then eventually, that's a good sentence. Little by little, nothing happened, and then eventually, I got my big break, which was Scrubs.
But all leading up to that time, you were thinking to yourself, I may or may not be able to do this. People are picking up on it.
It was never, but I was going to be in entertainment in some capacity. Even if I was a camera assistant or a first assistant director, I loved filmmaking and the arts too much to not be involved in some capacity. So my fallback, and I recommend this to people that are pursuing acting. Acting is such a roll of the dice lottery, even if you're great, that I say, like, if you want to be in the arts, then also pursue something else that'll allow you to be in the arts if your acting number doesn't come up. So that's why I pursued the behind the scenes, the camera stuff, because I thought, at the very least, even if I don't get to direct a film, I'll be the DP. I'll work as a camera assistant. I'll be a producer. I want to be involved somehow, but simultaneously, I'm going to pursue the acting, and if maybe my number will come up.
So you were totally unknown when you got Scrubs.
Yes, I was a waiter,
and nothing will be a bigger change from going from a waiter to having your own TV show.
That's a pretty big switch.
Yeah. How much pressure did it feel right off the bat? Did it feel stressful, or did it feel
I was living so frugally that the pilot check I could live off for like a year and a half. So I quit my waiting tables job, and my parents were like, "Are you crazy? What if it doesn't go?" I was like, "You don't understand. This pilot money, I can live off this. The amount I'm spending a month, I can live off this for a year and a half." So I was so psyched. Obviously, I hoped that it went, but you never know. And then when it went, my whole life changed.
How long before you knew, like, okay, this is going to be around for a while?
We were a hit our first year, not a giant hit, but they put us after Frasier, I believe. So when you get a lead in like that, you all of a sudden you have these crazy numbers, and then they couldn't stop moving us around, which hurts a show. But little by little, this core group got it. And they were never Friends numbers. It was never Frasier numbers. But no matter where they moved us on the schedule, roughly the same amount of people watched us. And you could have a giant superstar guest star. It wouldn't change. You could put it on Saturday morning after cartoons. It wouldn't change. This core fan base found the show. And then in syndication and DVDs, years later, a new crop, the younger kids found it. It became a big hit with teenagers in syndication. And so it was it kept going because, it was one of those first shows where people started getting all the DVDs and just watching it all weekend long, kind of thing.
So that's another thing that you've dealt with that most actors and generations before never dealt with. The fact that technology has changed so much during your career, and you have to adjust to it.
When I was in film school, we were cutting film still. We were cutting and splicing film, and we were doing tape-to-tape editing. The Avids arrived. Those of you who don't know, that's the fancy computer that people cut at movies on now, or that and Final Cut are the two companies. Now you can buy it and put it on your laptop and cut in your bed. When I was at film school, 3 Avids arrived. At the time, they were $100,000 each, and you had to sign up on the board to use them. And it was like, oh my God, the future of editing. This was 96 around. Now these film school, and we shot film. It was very expensive. You couldn't shoot 16mm film without raising the money and getting people to all pitch in money. And now you can have a Canon 5D and Final Cut or Avid on your laptop, and that's all happened since I graduated film school.
And that's going to keep happening throughout your life. Like, the technology will. I don't know how
it gets any better and cheaper than it is now. It's amazing. I mean, the Oz the Great and Powerful was shot with the same camera that my film school has, that most film schools will have, a camera called the Red. That's amazing. I mean, and the fact that it's so accessible. So we used to have an excuse. We could say like, oh, we can't afford to shoot film, and we're just going to smoke weed and play video games. And when I go to these colleges now, I'm like, you guys have no excuse. Like you can get a little Canon 5D and you can just cut it on your laptop. You have no excuse. You need to be shooting shorts every weekend. You need to be creating content and getting better.
But what's always strange is there was some guy who was the best in the world at cutting film, and suddenly he's not needed anymore. I think Scorsese still uses it that way. Yeah, I think Scorsese and Spielberg both say that they preferred it.
I can't. I'd be shocked if they're still doing it. But those skills though translate. So the editor obviously has to learn the computer interface.
Right.
But that skill of editing completely translates. You're just using a different tool.
But you have to be ready to change tools all the time.
All the time. I think anybody in this business has got to constantly be be up on what's new, including this, by the way. It folds nicely into our conversation. What is social media doing for entertainment? You have to be up on that. It is bringing the artist and the fan in direct conversation. So a lot of the middlemen can slowly go away. Look what Netflix did. They said, why do we have all these followers? We have these subscribers. Why don't we start making our own shows? Why are we only selling shows from other people? And that's going to be the future, is like you create your own content for your fan base. You don't necessarily need all of these many middlemen.
I think that the scary side of that, though, is that the audience starts to tell you what they want the film to be before you make the film, and most of the time things don't get changed unless you shock the audience and give them something new. In other words, they would eat McDonald's and French fries every day because they've liked it, and that seems like a good
I think
lunch.
the onus is on you to change it up. Look, I could have gone and made Garden State 2. This time it's personal.
With The Rock. Bringing The Rock in. Yeah.
With The Rock is Natalie. Yeah, I mean, I think the onus is on the artist to change it up, and you know what they like, the sense of humor. People that are following me on with my career are people that like Scrubs, or they like Garden State. They like the tone of what I'm trying to do. Sorry, just Trace Adkins walking to and fro.
Yeah, that's Trace. He's
Trace Adkins. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's
looking for Bret Michaels.
Yeah.
They're going to have a fight.
Yeah. I think he won Celebrity Apprentice.
He did, and it was very weird. It was just the other night, and he was like giving the money to the Red Cross. And now after yesterday, you're like, the Red Cross is there right away. It was a very strange thing for me. And it was also as I was like reading all your stuff, and when I first started reading about everything that you were going through, I'm like, oh man, this kid's really getting, having it rough. And then I turn on the TV and you see what's happening in Oklahoma, and then it reminds you show business is just, whatever. Show business.
And ultimately, it's pretty petty complaints. It's like, look, this was a wacky idea I threw out there. I didn't know if anyone would be into it. 40,000 people so far are into it. But if you're not, awesome, move on. Why are you still talking about it? It's not a tax.
It's also high school, too, though, isn't it? It goes back to that thing in high school, is that you're going to have friends, and then you're going to have people who act like the people who sit at that table are
It's
dicks.
a little sad. I have an architect friend. He said, when I was going through this, he said, Zach, it's gotten to the point where I know I'm doing well in my architect career when people are shitting on me. Because when I have something published, or I get a big win, or I get a big thing, and I see comments in comment sections about how I suck, he goes, it's sad, but I've come to almost like a Pavlovian response. I now realize when I'm being shat on, it means I'm doing well. Mm-hmm. And, take it for what it is.
Well, the thing is, now it's 24 hours a day, though. You know what I mean?
Well, only if you tune in. I mean, I you don't have to be. I don't go to comment sections and why that's like masochism. Why would I do that? I don't.
The strange thing is, I've worked in talk radio for a long time, and when someone calls, pretty much who they sound like, whether they're an asshole, or whether they're an educated person.
That happened when I was just on Howard. I mean, he took a couple calls.
Right. But you can tell right away, and you can just say, shut up and hang up. But with the written word, you have no idea. And you could find yourself arguing with an 8th grader if you're not, careful. You could waste time.
Well, an intellectual debate, I think the debate's interesting. I think the debate about this new thing that we have, a tool, crowdfunding, whether it be for charity, or whether it be for art, or whether it be for anything, getting Obama elected. Crowdfunding got Obama elected. I mean, the guy, It was a revolutionary campaign. I don't need to just go to billionaires. I'm going to go to the people and say, you can give me $5. It makes a difference. That's one of the reasons Obama won. So I think that the debate about this whole conversation is interesting, and we should be having it. But the way in which some people have the debate, and the anger and the vitriol by which some people have the debate is not appropriate, and you don't have to engage in it if you.
Well, you've got your thing ready to go. When you start shooting? August?
We start shooting in August, yeah.
And when are you looking to release the film?
I don't know. Ideally, the ideal scenario is that we are lucky enough to get into the Sundance Film Festival, like Garden State did, and we screen it there and find a domestic distributor. That would be the ideal plan, and that's in January, and then hopefully the fall would be my dream.
I think it's so amazing, and for people to go back and look, and everything that you've gone through is that still that stuff is up in the air. When people talk about, oh, you shouldn't be able to do that, you still have to find the distributor, and you still have to hope that there's a Sundance type thing. It doesn't end.
Of course. But if it's good, it'll work. Now it's all on my shoulders to deliver, and I know I can.
Everybody, I think it's very, very cool to come in and be able to talk about this stuff.
Thank you.
I think it's been very interesting to see the way that you've stood up with this whole deal. Well,
I know that I wasn't expecting to be the tip of this arrow and take it for all the people that will follow, but it is what happened, and it's kind of it is what it is, and I'm excited to hopefully clear the path for other artists to try it too.
Zach Braff, everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.